in CAD software, before you can create a three-dimensional object, you need to create a two-dimensional object. So let's say I wanted to create a cube. First thing I need to do is create a square, and then I've got to turn that square into stretch it out, and turn it into a 3D object. So to create a 2D shape, to make into a 3D shape, we use this tool. It's called the Create a Sketch tool. Now, if you can't see this, it might be under this little drop down here, Create Sketch. You want to make sure that's something you can see all the time. So pin it to your toolbar because you use it constantly. So Create Sketch. Now, because the CAD software can't read my mind, it doesn't know what I want to sketch on. Now, I can sketch on some of these imaginary planes, which I'll talk about in a second, or I can sketch on any existing flat surface in the model. Now, when I forget Sketch, it's popped up with these sort of yellow planes here, and they are a part of our origin. So our origin consists of these planes here and these axes as well. The center of the point of all of them is called our origin. So because, as I said, because it can't read our mind, we have to tell it what surface we want to draw on. And you can see over here from the view cube, this would be our front surface, this would be our right-hand surface, and this would be our top surface. So for this exercise, it doesn't really matter. I'm just giving you a bit of a demo. So I'm just going to choose that top surface, and it'll rotate around and look at it from the top view. What it should pop up with is a sketch palette over here on the right-hand side. And up the top, it should bring in a new set of tools called Sketch. And again, there's a whole bunch of tools under here and under here, which you just can't see because the toolbar's sort of minimized. This origin point is usually where you want to start all your sketches from. I would recommend most of the time, 99% of the time, that's where you want to start your sketch. There are scenarios where that's not the case, but most of the time, your best bet is to start on the origin point. I'm just going to create a couple of squares. And for this example, I'm not going to start on the origin point because I want to sort of explain how that works. So I'm going to click once to create our origin, to create our square. And as you can see, as I'm drawing this square out, I've clicked once to start a square, and it's got our dimensions sitting off next to it. So you can see that this is roughly 35 by 35. Now I could spend a week trying to get it exactly where it needs to be and probably still be off. Or I could just type in 35. And I'm just going to hit the tab key to move across to the other dimension and put in 35 over there too. When I hit enter, it will create a square which is 35 by 35. Now this is currently free, it's currently floating, so I can move it around, I can grab it and move it. Because there's dimensions on it, it's locked to those proportions, locked to 35 by 35. And if I change my mind and want to make that bigger or smaller, I can always change it here. Or change it back again. So we can put dimensions on as we create the shape, or we can put them on afterwards. So if I just drop in a random shape, I can apply my dimensions afterwards as well. So I can grab edges and move them around because this is completely free, completely unconstrained. I can add my dimensions afterwards. Now when we're creating models, or sketches especially, we want to make sure that our sketches are fully defined before we finish them and try to create something from it. And fully defined means that it's completely locked. So currently these are locked as squares, but they're not locked in terms of where they're positioned on the page or in the space. So I'm going to add a dimension and tell it how far away from the origin the bottom is and how far away the side is from the origin. And once I've put those dimensions in, we've got a black border or black line all the way around our shape. That indicates that this is fully defined. So I can't grab this shape and move it around. It is defined, and it's sort of set in stone, and that is a good way to work in terms of ensuring that there's no issues later on in your timeline. So the reason why normally I would start on the origin point is because whatever you create is automatically locked to the origin point. So it sort of saves you having to put in these extra dimensions to fully define your drawing, your sketch, if you start on that origin point. Now, it doesn't do much more than just create squares. We can create all sorts of different shapes, circles, drop down this thing's called ellipse, which is like an oval. There's slots. There's different types of curves and splines, arcs, and polygons. So you can use just lines to create shapes. And sometimes it might look like you've created a shape and you may have just missed those 2 points. You'll notice that when you have completed a shape, it will change to this sort of light blue color here. So even a shape like this, I can set all my dimensions in. And you can also set things like angles, or angle this is set to, as well as lengths of lines. There's also some neat features around create multiple shapes and sort of merge them into one. So you can use the trim tool to remove elements. And there's also a thing called a fillet tool, which will allow you to sort of curve edges. It's already here. So effectively, this is what designing and building objects in CAD is about developing up a series of sketches, and once we've sort of created some shapes we can extrude, we're going to finish our sketch. Now I'll do in my next video, I'll walk through how we can turn sketch these completely flat two-dimensional shapes. I'll walk through how we can change those and turn them into three-dimensional objects.